Her second great-grandmother had been here for 10 years, yet spoke no English. Oh my gosh. 1930 census says Tommy's 3 times great-grandmother had been here for 41 years and still spoke German. She didn't speak English either. She doesn't even know her own history. She certainly doesn't know this country's history.
Well, there is a woman over the weekend who took it upon herself to research my family history in hopes of digging up some kind of a gotcha moment, a gotcha angle to validate illegal immigration and open borders. And what she found was really shocking, guys. She found that my family who came here in the 1800s from Norway and Germany, that they spoke Norwegian and German. Okay. And really what she did is prove that my family came here legally. But
Sunny Hostin just got verbally body slammed by Tomi Lahren so hard, CNN probably applied for emotional damages. What started as a classic smug fest turned into a verbal demolition derby, and Sunny didn't even bring a helmet. You won't believe what Tomi dragged out from under the rug. Spoiler, it's not just dust bunnies and liberal double standards. Grab some popcorn because this takedown has more layers than a Kardashian wedding cake, and twice the drama.
But what she was hoping to do was try to call me a hypocrite for believing in merit-based immigration. Again, she failed miserably. But this really isn't what she calls resistance genealogy. It's just another indication of Trump derangement syndrome. But I really am happy, though, that she has such a fascination with my family history, and I'm hoping that she will take on Elizabeth Warren's next.
Wow, that would be very interesting.
Sunny Hostin, the human equivalent of a LinkedIn post that thinks it's changing the world, just got intellectually body slammed by none other than Tomi Lahren. Yes, that same Tomi who never met a hot take she didn't want to set on fire and hurl into a Fox News segment. And Sunny? She crumbled. Not a graceful fall from grace, but more like a Jenga tower built from self-righteous tweets and lukewarm political takes.
It was from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe.
Let's be honest. Sunny Hostin is the type of person who walks into a room, smells a debate, and immediately starts pre-scripting a monologue in her head that nobody asked for. She's the monarch of manufactured outrage, the duchess of dramatic sighs, and the high priestess of phrases like, as a woman of color, right before saying something that makes the whole room roll their eyes so hard they pull a cornea.
Did you provide them with DNA, 23andMe? Because I cannot believe the detail on your background that they were able to get.
Well, I don't have to. She did all the research for me, so I'm sure my family is very appreciative.
What about Joy saying, though, what are your skills? It's beyond research. It is personal. It is mean.
Well, of course, this is classical Joy Behar, but I would like to ask Joy Behar what her skills are, because perhaps we could swap stories. I know I watch Joy, and she seems like a highly skilled lady, but for her to attack me, that's really interesting. Those in glass houses should not throw stones.
It wasn't just the usual word salad this time. No. Sunny and the entire View panel tried to tango with Tomi and tripped over their own hypocrisy and heels, which she clearly borrowed from the self-importance collection at Target. Tomi didn't even break a sweat. She held up a mirror, and Sunny melted, like she saw her own Met Gala outfit again.
About you that bothers them so much.
Well, it's not just me, it's anybody who advocates for merit-based immigration or has an issue with open borders. And again, just like you said, they don't seem to understand that we on the right believe in immigration. We understand that we are a nation of immigrants, and I am proud of my heritage. However, I do believe that the immigration crisis of today is apples to oranges from what it was in the 1800s when immigrants came to this country legally, were documented, worked for themselves, asked for nothing, and built a life and a family. That has nothing to do with the illegal immigration crisis of today that we must deal with. But they don't want to acknowledge that.
Sunny Hostin has built an entire brand around being the intellectual of The View, which is sort of like being the sharpest spoon in a drawer full of bent forks. Her strategy? Weaponize moral superiority, sprinkle in some elitist disdain, and top it off with a tone that screams, I read the Constitution once, so now I am the Constitution. The problem? Every time someone asks her to back up her points, it's like watching a goldfish try to explain astrophysics, but with more indignation and way more hair flips.
I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
And it is funny. She is so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
Situation kicked off. Because of course it did when Sunny tried to dunk on conservatives by painting them all as brainless rage muffins. As if anyone to the right of Bernie Sanders is a caveman with a Twitter account. She sat on that View couch like she was Thanos of political takes, snapping her fingers and expecting common sense to vanish. Now, say what you will about Tomi. She came armed, with facts, receipts, and that unbothered sass that makes Sunny's polished veneer crack like dollar store acrylics. It wasn't a fair fight. It was like bringing a souffle to a knife fight. Sunny's argument started off haughty and ended up hollow. You could practically hear her pride wheezing under the weight of actual evidence. And when the receipts were laid out, oh, the tension, you could cut it with one of Sunny's overused catchphrases. Because Tomi didn't just expose a slip-up or contradiction, she peeled back the curtain on the entire Sunny Hostin persona. A mashup of performative activism and conveniently selective outrage.
During the Obama years, it was a cattle call to come into this nation illegally. And furthermore, this is again the left's attempt at emotional blackmail. And I would just like to state, I don't know if they understand this or not, but if you don't want your family to be broken up when you cross the border illegally, here's an idea. Don't cross the border illegally. Then your family will surely stay together. I don't know why the left can't think of this, but they would rather try to tell us that we hate families, we want to break up families, we're horrible, we're despicable. No, we want to enforce federal immigration.
Start with Sunny's greatest hits, her ongoing moralizing about democracy, freedom, and all that jazz, while simultaneously suggesting that people who disagree with her shouldn't have microphones, platforms, or, let's be honest, possibly even oxygen. Nothing screams defender of democracy like suggesting you only get to speak if you pass the Sunny Hostin vibe check. It's democracy with a doorman, and Sunny's holding the guest list like a TMZ intern on an ego trip. But when Tomi rolled, up with facts about Sunny's own inconsistencies, oh boy, it was like watching a wine snob realize their prized vintage is just boxed Merlot in a designer bottle. Sunny stammered, side-eyed, and clutched her pearls so hard you could hear them beg for mercy. Her confidence went from 100 to dial tone in under 30 seconds. You'd think after all these years on The View, Sunny would have at least developed a plan B for when her arguments collapse like a Dollar Tree umbrella in a hurricane. But nope. Plan A is smugness, Plan B is louder smugness, and Plan C, that's just a commercial break.
Why do you think you've resonated with so many people?
I think in large part I represent middle America. So you've got the two coasts, and those individuals seem to kind of just talk to each other. And then you've got all of middle America right there that's dying to have a voice. They don't really feel like they have one. They're not represented, beyond their communities. So I think they watch me and they say, well, she speaks like I do. She thinks like I do. She seems to maybe get it like I do. And I think that's why it's resonated. And also I do something very different. There's not a whole lot of young conservative women out there. And so I provide that for a lot of young women.
Now let's talk about how Tomi pointed out Sunny's infamous habit of pretending to be the spokesperson for every marginalized group on the planet. Sunny treats identity politics like Pokemon cards. Gotta collect them all to win the argument. She starts every debate by stacking her personal identity resume like it's the final word in logic. Woman, Latina, lawyer, martyr, oracle, and honorary Harvard professor of whatever topic she just Googled. The irony, Sunny routinely accuses others of talking down to people while delivering every single argument in the tone of a disappointed grad school lecturer who just found out you cited Wikipedia. She's always like, I just think we need to educate people, as if the rest of us learned politics from cereal boxes and finger puppets. And while we're here, let's talk about Sunny's obsession with virtue signaling like it's a full-time job with benefits. This woman has turned being performatively correct into an Olympic sport. She doesn't just think she's right, she thinks she's morally superior. If you disagree with her, clearly you have some inner rot that can only be cured with a 4-minute monologue and a New York Times op-ed.
We keep on talking about criminals and immigrants being criminals. And I just want people to understand what the facts are and the stats are, is that undocumented immigrants are much less likely to have committed crimes than American citizens. American citizens commit more crimes than anyone who's undocumented. I also want to make the point that an undocumented immigrant is not a criminal because he or she is undocumented. That is a civil offense. So to call people illegal is in and of itself, I think, xenophobic and racist.
But when Tomi flipped the mirror, when she reminded Sunny that you don't get to be the nation's compass while cherry-picking when your principles apply, that's when the real show began. Sunny fumbled, mumbled, and then, predictably, defaulted to her signature move, invoking her personal struggle as a human shield. Because in Sunnyland, when you're losing a debate, all you have to do is yell, "As a woman of color," and suddenly accountability vanishes like a magician's. Rabbit. But Tomi didn't blink. She just kept laying out contradiction after contradiction like receipts on a checkout belt. And it wasn't just the facts that made Sunny crumble, it was the ease. The terrifying surgical ease with which her grandstanding got dismantled. All that prepackaged indignation Sunny brings to every discussion, it popped like a balloon in a porcupine factory. Watching her scramble to salvage her intellectual pride was the most unintentionally hilarious reality show of the week.
Democrats really want to die on the hill of bringing back plane loads of criminal, illegal alien gang members.
But you haven't proven that they're criminals.
Please.
That's the problem.
Be my guest.
Honestly, like, look, I will be the first one to say if there is a criminal, if there's a gang member in this country, someone who has committed any crime, big or small, get him out. Sure, I'll absolutely concede that. We don't need criminals in this country. But if you're talking about somebody who you don't know because you haven't afforded them due process, then you can't just make that claim.
But the fact remains, President Trump is not only securing our border, but he is deporting criminal, illegal aliens. And if Democrats want to stand in the way of that, and they want to tell their constituents, hey, vote for us in the midterms, vote for us in 2028, we'll make sure that the criminal aliens come back, far be it for me to stand in your way.
But here's the problem with building a career on smug sound bites and hashtag activism. Eventually, someone's going to fact check you, and when they do, you better have more than just eye rolls, buzzwords, and a library of facial expressions that scream, "I can't believe I have to explain this to you peasants." Sunny's entire persona is like an overpriced TED Talk no one asked for, overproduced, underwhelming, and deeply convinced of its own importance. And while she's busy looking down from her moral penthouse, the foundation keeps eroding. Every time she contradicts herself, dismisses dissent, or crumbles when faced with someone who doesn't play by her rules. In the aftermath, Sunny's defenders tried to spin the situation. She was ambushed, taken out of context, which is hilarious, because if anyone knows how to ambush with passive aggression, it's Sunny Hostin. The woman practically invented polite venom. You know the tone, with all due respect, followed by the most respectfully devastating takedown of your entire existence.
I have a question of my own. Do you lock your doors at home? At your residence, do you have a lock on your door? Do you use that lock?
I do. Yeah, I do.
You have an alarm?
And why is that? I mean, you lock your door because you want to know who's coming into your home. It's not because you hate the people outside, it's because you love the people inside. Well, that's what needs to be done with the United States of America. That's why we have a border. We have a right to know who's coming into our country and why. That's what keeps us.
This time, no amount of polished disdain could save her. Sunny Hostin, the self-anointed intellectual heavyweight of daytime TV, got obliterated. Without Tomi Lahren even breaking a sweat. Tomi didn't need to scream, wave papers, or invent new buzzwords to trend on X. All she had to do was metaphorically hold up the Sunny Hostin mirror, you know, the one that reflects every smug smirk and self-congratulatory head tilt, and let Sunny roast herself into irrelevance. It was a masterclass in letting someone implode under the gravity of their own inflated ego. Let's not kid ourselves. This wasn't some rare glitch in Sunny's usually polished performance. This was the grand finale of a years-long slow burn. Sunny's been crumbling under the weight of her own self-importance for so long, you'd think someone would have handed her a hard hat and a warning sign by now. Her political commentary has never been about the issues. It's always been about how deeply she feels about them. emphasis on the she.
But what I would like to point out is that there is no correlation between undocumented people and a rise in crime. That's statistically accurate. Immigrants, including undocumented immigrants, are less likely to commit crimes in the United States. So this notion somehow that it's about national security, I think is just false.
Because every time Sunny opens her mouth with that classic preamble, I think what's important to understand is you can practically hear the drum roll of impending nonsense. What follows is never a nuanced analysis or a compelling argument. No, it's usually a meandering detour through her personal sense of moral superiority, peppered with enough buzzwords to make a Wordle player cry. She doesn't inform, she performs. And this time, the audience finally stopped clapping, so when Tomi, never one to shy away from a clean takedown, simply let Sunny be Sunny, it was over before it even began. There were no raised voices, no eye-roll Olympics, no dramatic walk-offs, just one of those quiet demolitions. The kind where someone lights the match, walks away, and lets the building collapse under its own structural flaws. Let's be honest, Sunny was too busy tripping over her own words and contradictions to notice.
Like me, you would believe differently.
But you know what, Alyssa, the woman.
So, but just to understand, are we saying, do we think the vast majority of Americans are racist? That's what I'm trying to help me understand.
I think that there is a significant portion that are racist, and you can't dismiss my lived experience.
We didn't need to go for the jugular. All she had to do was stay calm and let Sunny spiral into a philosophical tailspin. Every sentence Sunny uttered was a shovel, and she just kept digging. Tomi threw in a smug smile here, a raised eyebrow there, maybe the occasional interesting, just to fan the flames. But mostly, she let Sunny do the heavy lifting of self-sabotage. And here's the kicker. Sunny thought she was winning. That's the beauty of this train wreck. She genuinely believed she was delivering a scathing critique, completely unaware she was broadcasting her own incoherence on live television. Tomi didn't need to interrupt or insult. She just held up a polished mirror, and every condescending smirk, every logical dead end bounced right back. It wasn't a battle. It was a public service announcement. Interview, because sometimes the best way to win an argument is to let your opponent keep talking. Don't worry, Sunny will bounce back. She always does. There's always another view segment, another monologue, another opportunity to pretend she's the only sane voice in a room full of people just trying to survive the news cycle without a thesaurus. And as for Tomi, she didn't just expose Sunny, she steamrolled her. Not with rage, not with volume, but with the devastating power of coherence. A rare and dangerous weapon in the wild world of televised shouting matches. So next time Sunny gears up for another battle of wits, let's hope she remembers to bring some. Because if this episode proved anything, it's this. A podium doesn't make you right, a platform doesn't make you smart, and a smirk doesn't make you invincible. Especially when your whole argument crumbles faster than a vegan cookie in a heat wave. Want more glorious takedowns of media elitism and performative righteousness? Smash that like button so hard Sunny can hear it from her dressing room. And don't forget to subscribe. Unless, of course, you want Sunny Hostin to personally explain why you're morally bankrupt.